Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome. So excited you're here. We are about to kick off, and we've got an hour with Peter, and I'm about to make a quick introduction. But before I do that, Greg, would you go ahead and put up that? Yeah, exactly. So here's some etiquette that we love to do just to make sure we're all on the same page. First of all, please mute yourself if it's not already, and turn on your camera and stay on. It's important because this is engagement. Secondly, put in your full name so we can see who you are, your name. And then last thing is to ask questions today. What we're going to do is ask you to put them into the chat. And then Emily here at Black Lab is actually going to pick those different questions and tee you up to actually come in and ask the question for Peter. So that is the plan. And we sent out earlier in our emails Peter's background in his bio. And I think that if I tried to actually
I wouldn't waste the time on that. Let's get into the conversation.
If I tried to do it, it would take a whole hour. So what we're going to do is that we're going to spend a couple minutes chatting here, and then we're going to open it up for questions. And then for the rest of the group, we're going to stay on. Peter has a hard stop at the hour. We're going to stay on and do a little breakout networking session so we can talk about some of the stuff that we've gone through. So that's the run of show. Peter, thank you for being here and sharing what you got. So I'm going to kick it off. My first question is a little bit more personal, if that's all right. It's really about family, because we all have close ones near us. And I know you've got twin 11-year-olds.
Yes.
My kids are a little older. They're in college already. But given the world today, given the incredible changes and the advancements in exponential technology in AI, for example, how do you frame the future for your family and your kids especially? And how do you help them prepare, and how do you even spend time with them? I'm curious about that dynamic.
Yeah, sure. So let me reverse the order there. I am 61 right now, right? So I had kids when I was 50, a little bit different than typical. And I'm really happy I waited. I mean, I spent my 20s and 30s and 40s and really focused on going after my moonshots and building the things I wanted to build. And it was very me-centric time. Having kids later has given me the flexibility to basically bluntly blow off a meeting or change it or say someone else sit in for me, right. Which you can do. It's buying back time. And so I do prioritize my time with my 11-year-olds. I take them to school in the morning. I pick them up as much as I can. I take my kids, to their sports events and just want to spend time with them. I view I have them in this mindset for a few years. Going back to the question of how do you prepare them for this coming world? There's only a few things that I think can prepare them for the world that is coming, can prepare any of us for the world that's coming at warp speed. And it's not about learning the code. It's not about any particular technology. It's not about any of that stuff. The first is helping them find their passion. Because if they connect with a passion, as hopefully many of you have, that passion will drive you to learn whatever you have to learn, right? It's intrinsic motivation. So my early passion was space. It was Star Trek and Apollo. And I did everything I have achieved in life because I was driven by that, like just extraordinary desire and passion to go and open that space frontier. You couldn't have paid me enough to work as hard as I worked because it was an intrinsic passion driven. So helping your kids find their passion, not your passion, not their teacher's passion, not their brother or sister's passion, their passion. And you can turn anything into a career, right? So for them right now, it really is the whole Roblox video game universe, and that's the universe they're going to live in. And so I'm constantly struggling with the back and forth of how much screen time and all of that. But so passion is the first thing. And Jean-Paul, as you, and I see Dom here on the call, who's in the Abundance 360 workshop this morning, as we discussed, the second thing, which I've been saying for a long time, and it's even more important now, is helping them learn to ask great questions. So in a world in which you can know anything, and in particular in which ChatGPT and whatever Google or whatever Stability creates, all of these knowledge engines are answering questions. It's the quality of the question you ask that matters more than anything else. So learning how to ask great questions is another part. And then the third thing for me that we talk about is never giving up. It's doing things you care about enough that you're going to have grit to keep going and push through. I don't think our educational system is preparing our kids for the future, not even close. I don't think a lot of the stuff I learned in 7th, 8th, 9th grade in particular is anything I'm using right now or anything that you're using right now. Maybe you're using geometry and trigonometry and algebra. I don't know. Anybody here using that daily? Anybody? Okay, got one. All right, well, we got the entire world helping Pierce out in his with his educational experience. You know, but what I do use is how to form an argument, how to convey my ideas, how to collaborate, how to have empathy, right? And so why isn't our educational system teaching us like that, things like this, helping you find your passion, your purpose, helping you use these tools? So that's a different conversation, but that's what you asked. So.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. We spend a lot of time on purpose as well, obviously in this community, but that question about how to ask good questions, I mean, is it about curiosity? Just like, how do you get good at that?
It is about curiosity, and it's about keeping on pushing the limits of the question. Like, ask a question. Okay, now the concept, I wrote about this, I think it was in my first book, Abundance, or it might have been in Bold, the idea of adjacencies. Like if you're in a room and like going into the room next to it and the room next to it and the room next to it, right? If you're trying to understand, I don't know, AI prediction of protein synthesis, right? And then going from that into another adjacency of, can you either different types of amino acids you can make, and there are different kinds of life forms you can make. I mean, just sort of like exploring way beyond, going almost into absurdity of your exploration. Right. And I talk about this, that the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea, right? If you're not thinking about crazy ideas in your business, then you're stuck in incrementalism, right? If you're thinking only the way that you know how to think, and you're not really moving into the realm of crazy. You know, I have my, let's see if I have here. Yeah, I've got my, I don't know if you can see this. It's my crazy idea book. You know, it's
I've
like
got one somewhere here too.
Yeah, it's our given away by XPRIZE. It's you know, so how do you find crazy ideas? And it really comes typically from not from your own head. It comes from books you're reading and you're interacting with the author, or it might be in a group like you are right now. Or it could be in brainstorming with an AI function like ChatGPT, where you're saying, this is my business, what I'm doing. You know, if Jeff Bezos were going to use my business in Amazon, what would it look like? Or if Elon was going to try and disrupt my business, what would he do? You know, asking crazy questions like 100 years from now, what would my business look like? I mean, things that you might not otherwise, but it's most 99% will be garbage, but the 1% gets you thinking in a dimension you might not otherwise have been moving in the first place. And that's where genius and disruption comes from. Hopefully that makes sense.
You said that this morning when we were on our meeting, that, and it's actually the note I took down, which was, we can only think the way we think. But by using AI right now, does that give us a different level of brainstorming capability?
It does. And one of the things I talk about is having AI open, having ChatGPT or some variant of it open in your brainstorming meetings, in your board meetings, in your executive meetings, and people just, you know, saying, I've had this a lot. We're naming products in the early days before ChatGPT was around, just GPT-3. It's like, you know, here's a description of the product. What should we call it? Then it was like, what would Elon call it? What would Donald Trump call it? You know, it's like, it's just very fascinating questions you could start asking that get you moving in bizarre and wonderful ways.
Yeah. Let me switch it around a little bit because, we've got a lot of young entrepreneurs or first time, early people and early in their entrepreneurial journey on this call as well. Talk a little bit about that. Like when you think back to whether it was the XPRIZE or just early on,
Yeah,
what are some of the high points and the low points that kind of come up for you first?
sure. So I'm on my 26th company right now, maybe 27. And I think I was lucky that my first few ventures actually succeeded, because traditionally that's not the case. My first two ventures were nonprofits. I started a college space organization called SED, Students Exploration and Development of Space. It grew into an international college group. Jeff Bezos was the chapter president for Princeton. I was at MIT. And so I learned a lot. I garnered the nickname in my fraternity while I was running that Pete in Space, which unfortunately abbreviates to PISS. They named my fraternity bedroom the urinal because PISS lives there. It was interesting, to say the least. But at the end of the day, that was successful. And then from there started International Space University, which also succeeded. And it was the blueprint that Ray and I started Singularity University on. But the reality was those early successes got me to keep on dreaming bigger, which led to a couple of big things that ultimately didn't succeed. They failed. And I learned a lot of lessons. But my experience was whenever I did anything that was not passion driven, that was not in line with my massive transformative purpose, my MTP, as we talk about it. If it was a get rich quick scheme, like something, oh man, there's a definite need for this, and I'm going to make a ton of money. The reality was it was either empty, it failed, it was a waste of time, because doing anything significant, big and bold is hard work. And you're going to need to push through failure after failure. And if you're not doing something for intrinsic purposes, because you love it, it's your purpose, it's what you wake up in the morning, it's what you go to sleep at night with, you're not going to keep going when you have a failure. You're going to give up. And everything, I don't care what your idea is, the idea is the easy part. Right. To be very clear, coming up with the idea, a dime a dozen, so to speak, there's a million ideas, 1,000 ideas. Its execution is everything. And I remember I used to be scared to share my idea with people because they would steal it. That's bullshit. It's like, if they steal it, good luck. Right. It's execution. So the ideas that were get rich quick, in that bucket, whenever it got hard, and they always got hard, they always seem easy at the beginning because you're not close enough to it to know the details yet, to know all of the failure modes, because it's a field outside of your normal field. When you hit those speed bumps, you'll typically either be begrudgingly doing it because you're not enjoying it, or you'll give up and have wasted dollars and time. If it's what you love to do, even if you fail, you will have done something that you love in an area that you want to learn about. And so that alignment of being clear about your massive transformative purpose, what is it that emotionally gets you up in the morning, and then working on things within that realm is super critical. And that can change over time. For me, it was space, and then it was focused on grand challenges through XPRIZE and Singularity. The last decade has been on adding 30 healthy years in human longevity areas.
Peter, I'm about to open it up for questions. Just I got one more that's kind of eating at me. Yeah. But so for folks that want to ask a question, put it in the chat. And then once we're ready to call on you, Emily will do so. But definitely write your questions down there. What makes you unique? I mean, why did Fortune just name you one of the top 50 leaders globally? I mean, what is it that makes you you? I think I'm very stubborn, and there's a lot of grit. A lot of the projects I've worked on that have succeeded have taken 10, 11, 12 years, not given up,
because I believe them in my heart of hearts. I think I look at things from a first principle thinking, meaning fundamentally, is this something that can change the world, should change the world, should exist? And everything I'm doing not on my own. It's through an amazing team of individuals. And finally, I think, and it's probably the most important thing, it's probably something we should discuss over the next 45 minutes in part, which is I realized there is one major important thing that everyone here in this Zoom room needs to think about, which is, what is the mindset that you have about the world? So if I said to you, listen, what was it that made Mahatma Gandhi, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, name your favorite global leader, what was it that made them successful? Was it the money they had? Was it the technology they had? Was it the friends they had? Was it where they were born? Or was it the mindset they had? And I think hopefully all of us realize it was their mindset. And if you took away everything from them, but they retained their mindset, chances are they would regain a lot of their success. And so if that is true, the question I have for each of you here is, what mindset do you have? I mean, honestly, what mindset do you have that guides you, that is the filter through which you see hardship or opportunity or friendship or deals or partnerships? What mindset do you have? And where did you get that mindset? Did you just happen into it? Did your parents give it to you? Was it a teacher? And then the last question is, what mindset do you want? What is the mindset that will allow you to succeed in this period of hyper accelerating growth, right? And so what I teach a lot in abundance, and what Jean-Paul we talk about and work on is a series of mindsets: a curiosity mindset, we just spoke about that a second ago; an abundance mindset, seeing that there's nothing truly scarce; an exponential mindset, seeing that we're gonna create in the next 10 years as much progress as we've seen in the last 100 years, right? A moonshot mindset, you can go 10 times bigger than your competition with the right mindset; a longevity mindset; and then a purpose-driven mindset. So those are the mindsets that I focus on. I'm constantly teaching, doing podcasts. I have a podcast called Moonshots and Mindsets that's focused on interviewing people around that. So I think,
yeah, and just Peter, we've already been using some of those tools in our conversations as well with this community, right. And as we do that more and more, I'm excited for that. So Emily, why don't we tee up the first question?
Yeah, for sure. We've got Andrew Leslie. Andrew sent his question in advance. So Andrew, if you are on, you can go ahead and go off mute, or I can unmute you.
Sure. Hello.
Hey,
hi,
Andrew.
Peter. Hi, JP. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, my question is, I've founded something with a partner of mine here, and we're very passionate about it. It feels very purposeful. One of the challenges I'm running into is just like my capacity is somewhat greater than his. He's a father of two, runs the community here that we're running the new business out of. And then for me, I don't have kids yet, and so have a lot more capacity. And I'm just wondering, sometimes I find when I'm pouring that into the business, is that the right thing to do? I find myself feeling a little bitter about the additional work. And I start to question if that's even, I heard a good analogy that Kobe, before he passed, was becoming the best leader when he learned how to not try to outwork everyone at 4 a.m. and rather like have more balance, and especially when he had kids. So anyway, the long story short, my question is, what to do with that additional capacity at this point in life? Should I pour it into the business knowing that it is feeling purposeful, or should I try to find another outlet?
Yeah. What's your position in the business, and what's your partner's, co-founder's position?
So he's a community builder, a lot like JP, and then I'm a design researcher. So we kind of put the two together. So he's bringing that background of a fitness community here, and then
are you just title wise co-founders and 50-50 equity split in the company, or?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So first of all, what you want to do is have a relationship with your co-founder that is open and honest and transparent. Everybody here knows this already, or if you don't, you will find it out. You will spend more time with your co-founders and leadership team than you do your wife and your kids today. And you will get to know them better, and they will be central in your life, and it will either grow or explode, because it's that intense. And so early on, I think you need to have a conversation with your co-founder to say, listen, I love who you are, what you bring, but I want to be transparent about how I'm feeling right now. And it's this, I feel like I'm putting in double the time you are. I don't bemoan you that fact. You have family and so forth, but it feels awkward because of our situation right now. So can we talk about potential solutions? Don't have to propose anything, but open a conversation along that lines. And it may be that he says, yeah, I get it. Let's come up with something formulaic, and maybe until you're putting more time, maybe you'll have kids and a family and so forth, and that will change. Or the other option is you put a throttle on your involvement, which is sometimes hard if you're passion driven by what you're doing.
Yeah.
And start investing time in something else. And you can say, listen, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have, an affair with another company, so to speak. I want to focus on this, but I would love to have it feel more equitable. Can we talk about this? But I'll give you the final piece of advice here, which is whenever there is any kind of issue like this in a startup of small teams, it never gets better with age. And the old saying, you got to eat a frog before breakfast. You got to address it up front, like tomorrow morning, or like when we get off the Zoom. Send them a text message when we're off and say, listen, can we grab a coffee tomorrow so we can talk about something?
Thanks, Peter. That's helpful. I definitely lean to the latter, not to go deeper on it, but that I think we're experiencing success. And I think we're both of the opinion that, it'll be a slow trajectory, like you said, 10 to 12 years to see it pay off. And I think the tough thing is, does it really require me using that extra capacity for the business to do better? That's what I'm unsure of. But nonetheless, I think the advice to have that frank conversation and knowing that those feelings might continue is really interesting to hear.
Yeah, they will, and they'll manifest in different ways. I will say one final thing, which is if ever you can work smarter, not harder, that is a really good thing.
Very good.
I wonder,
Thanks,
Peter.
Peter.
If Chat GPT would have that same recommendation. I'll have to test.
Great question. Yeah.
Emily, let's grab another question.
Yeah, we've got a great question from James. James, when you're ready, just go ahead and hop off mute.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Peter and JP for putting this on. My question, you almost alluded to it at the very beginning, which is we're not equipping our children with the education of today for the future.
Yeah.
So my question is a little bit of, can we forecast what the future might look like in 10 years and how we get children involved now in the development of AI technology, other technologies that are infused? How do we integrate that into the school systems?
Great question. And I think we can, in fact, forecast the directionality of its going. Whether we'll have clarity of 5 or 10 years from now, I don't know. But AI and VR/metaverse technologies is going to completely democratize and demonetize education. So there are two industries which are going to crumble, and those are education and healthcare this decade, the next 10 years. They're just inefficient, they're expensive, they're overly government regulated, and they're not working. So we're going to see a lot of disruption there. I think the pandemic was the fuse that was lit for both of those to disrupt. And so this year at Abundance 360, I've got Sal Khan, who runs the Khan Academy, If you're familiar, he'll be keynoting, as well as Imad Mustaq, the CEO of Stability AI, who was one of the winners of our global learning XPRIZE that Elon Musk had funded for helping scale education in Africa. Anyway, long story short, we're going to see AI come in and reinvent education. I want you to imagine where education for the poorest child on the planet and the wealthiest child is identical, right? Just like Google is the same, Larry Page's co-founder of Google, his kids and the poorest kids on the planet with Google, it's the same. It's not a little bit better for Larry Page. It's identical. It's completely demonetized and democratized. We're going to see the same thing occurring in education and healthcare. So you can imagine an AI, and this is where AI is streaming into this big time, where we're going to see AI knowing your child's cognitive capacity, favorite sports star, favorite movie star, favorite colors, understands whether your child likes to learn visually, auditorily, experientially, and frankly, from looking everything at head motions and voice inflections and pupillary dilation, whether your kid got the idea or not, right? And able to reframe it in different ways and really move a person through an educational experience. We also know that when we are experiencing something versus reading it, we retain a lot more. So can we make everything experiential? The example I use is, instead of reading Plato's, philosophy and whatever it might be, can you enter a VR universe and walk around ancient Greece and have the conversations and debate and discuss with people there and remember what it was like, right? So we're heading in that direction, and I think that's within the next 5 years. Stability AI, Stable Diffusion, is now able to render a high resolution image in a 30th of a second, which means it can render live video instantaneously. So imagine being able to be in a virtual world with high resolution NPCs where, the NPCs are the world's knowledge by all historians in that character. So when you're talking to that character, it is the most realistic you possibly have. Wow, I would love to go to school there, right?
And fully personalized.
And fully personalized for you, in your language, at your level, connecting with things that was in your educational conversation a week ago or a year ago. I mean, holy cow, it's amazing. That is coming.
And Peter, talk a little bit about, we spoke this morning about it too. Was it ChatGPT that passed the JD?
Yeah, so we saw in the last 30 days, ChatGPT pass, first of all, the United States medical licensing exam, right? Which typically you take after your third year of residency. I graduated medical school, passed part 2 of the boards, never passed part 3, didn't go for it, but God almighty, it's a ton of work. Passed the bar exam, passed the Wharton MBA finals exam. I mean, where we're heading is a world where every profession has an AI co-pilot. I don't care what you do. If you're a poet, if you're an interior designer, if you're an artist, a physician, a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a CEO, a federal judge, you're going to have an AI co-pilot who is there helping you analyze data, helping you make decisions, right? As I like to say, it's going to be malpractice to diagnose a patient without AI in the loop in the not too distant future. Because, there's 7,000 articles printed in medical journals every day. How many has your doctor read? I can guarantee you maybe one at most, right? Your AI could have read all of them.
Yep. Education.
Yeah.
All right, next question, Emily.
Yeah, our next question is from Judy Cousin. Judy is actually driving right now, so she asked that I read her question on her behalf. So I hope that's all right with everybody.
Of course.
Her voice is more pleasant. Her question is, you've invested in the prevention of osteoporosis through your OsteoStrong venture. Are you seeing additional innovation in this segment right now?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm not involved with OsteoStrong. I've been a user of it. So as we grow older, your body is at peak metabolic health in your late 20s. And as much as we desire, it's all, shall we say, a gradual degradation from there. Your bones get less dense. The problem with that is after the age of 65, if you should fall and have a pelvic fracture or a hip fracture, the chance of death is 70% within a year. It's blatantly, ridiculous. Typically, you're overweight, you're older, and all of that. My father passed that way from a pelvic fracture, because you end up in the hospital with a pneumonia, and the hospitals are the worst places to be. So the question becomes, how do you retain not only your bone strength, but your muscle strength? And right now, I'm on a kick to maximize my muscle strength. I'm working on adding 10 pounds of muscle. I'm probably in the best shape I've been, but still working on it every single day. Because muscle is a great source of stem cell population. It prevents falls. It's a whole slew of positive. In fact, one of the highest correlations between longevity is your amount of muscle in your frame. So what am I tracking here? Your body is very dynamic. And so your body is constantly regulating up and regulating down bone through osteoblasts that make bone, osteoclasts that break down bone, and sarcopenia and hyperplasia of your muscle bend on use. One of my companies is developing, it's a company called Vaccinity. We took it public last year. It's a vaccine company, and we've been developing two different vaccines that would stop the breakdown of bone and stop the breakdown of muscle. One of the places that we're in research right now is for long duration space flight, because as you go to space for a year, or you're going to Mars for 2 or 3 years, you lose muscle mass and bone mass. But the real application is, when you're hitting in your 70s, 80s, or if you go into bed rest, or if you break your leg and you have muscle wasting. There's another company called Immunis, an investor and advisor too, and it uses stem cell exudates. All of the growth factors coming out of stem cells are used to prevent muscle degradation when you're in a cast post-surgery. So lots of technologies. We are so much in the beginning of this longevity revolution.
Peter, hit on a little bit on, well, first of all, how long do you think you will live for?
So listen, I have a ridiculous number, and I'll explain where it came from. So when I was in medical school years ago, I was doing a joint MD PhD in aerospace engineering, and I watched this television show on long-lived sea life. And it said in this TV show that species of bowhead whales could live 200 years, Greenland sharks could live 400 or 500 years. And back then it said, sea turtles could live 700 years. And I was like, if they can, and I don't think they can, I think that was a mistake back then, but if they can live that long, why can't I? Right? It's a reasonable question, right? And I said, it's either a hardware problem or a software problem. And we're going to be able to fix that. So I set the ridiculous goal of 700 years, which is a ridiculous goal. And it's as ridiculous as 120 or 150 for the following reason. If, I'm 61 now, let's round it to 60. If I said 120, and I really was able to add 60 years onto, from now, over the next 60 years, we're going to see thousands of years of scientific progress equivalency, right? We've got massive AI and quantum computing. We're going to understand the fundamentals of life itself. The expectation is that there is something called longevity escape velocity, which is that there's going to be a point at which science is adding a year of length to your life for every year that you're alive. And if I talk to Ray Kurzweil, who's one of my mentors, George Church at Harvard Medical School, the number for when we reach longevity escape velocity in Ray's case is 10 years, in George's case is 15 years. So if I round it up to 20 or 25 years, I don't need to go past, 60 years. If I can intercept the technologies over the next 20 or 30 years, it buys you continued healthy life extension. So I think picking a number is just for conversational fun, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, it's that longevity mindset, which we'll dive into. Emily, let's grab another question.
Great. Our next question is from Nicole. Nicole, if you're ready, you can go off mute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi,
Nicole.
Peter. I big fan of yours. Love
Thank you.
all the things you do. I'm actually reading through Life Force right now, so excited.
It's a big book.
Yeah, it's so thick, but exciting. So yeah, I'm taking full advantage here. Day to day, I work with a big patent portfolio at the university here in Boulder, about 300 patents in everything from quantum computing through all life science things. And I'm looking to pursue one of these patents myself and turn it into a venture. It's something I've been, looking at different things for many years, and I think I found the one.
Nice.
Yeah, super exciting. So my question to you, actually, I have two related, but what are the top things? Because it feels like everything you touch turns to gold, which is amazing.
I wouldn't say that. I have plenty of failures as well, but thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the top things you look for when you pursue a venture, both as, building a venture or investing in something?
Sure. But before I go there, can I give you a nugget of gold? Because I had this conversation at A360 at my workshops this morning and yesterday. So go to ChatGPT, and if you have a bunch of patents you're looking at, put the patent number to ChatGPT and say, can you summarize this patent for me in easily to understand language? Holy cow. Imagine being able, patents are written in a obscure form of legalese. And I get it. It protects patent lawyers. But you can have ChatGPT actually make it understandable. And one of my colleagues, one of our abundance members, got online and said, did that for 2 different patents and said, what are the uses in my industry of these 2 patents put together?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow is right. I mean, holy shit, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
if I were to use patent A and patent B in this industry, what ideas come up? That seems awesome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like playing jazz with ideas. I mean, it's like my favorite thing I've heard in the last 48 hours. So, so what am I looking for? At the end of the day, it has to be emotionally connected to me. I have to care about this. This can't be an intellectual curiosity. Intellectual curiosity is come and go. It has to be emotional. What does that mean? It means I care about this. At the end of my life, 700 years from now, I'm just kidding. At the end of my life, am I proud that I would have done this thing? That it really matters to me. It matters to humanity. I care about it. It's like awe-inspiring. It's a positive emotion that gets me. The other side of it is, I had this experience which really was painful, and I refuse to allow this to go on any further. And it's a negative emotional driver. And I'm going to use my intellect, my treasure, my talent, my tech to never have that happen again. So what you want is either a super positive or super negative emotional driver, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, when everything's failed for the 50th time and you have to keep going, it's only that emotional driver that will keep you going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's true. That's true as an investor too, right, Peter?
It is if you're really going to go all in and support an entrepreneur, right? And as an entrepreneur, I've had companies over the time where somebody puts some money, throws some money in, and like great, but then when it gets tough and I need more capital, if not, they're not emotionally invested, they're gone. Right. So I'd rather take capital from a smaller investor who's got, and I mean, if I were interviewing investors, it's like, what's your emotional connection to my mission? Because they're going to stick with you and care about you and think about you during their shower time, which is my sort of like shorthand for like their cognitive surplus. So I'm looking for, to answer your question, the emotional connection. The other two questions are why me and why now?
Yeah.
Right. So I have gone into ventures, you know, like my asteroid mining venture, loved it, amazing, just way too early. The why now was not wrong, was wrong. Why me was fine, except I probably needed $200 million in my pocket I didn't have available at the time. And the why now was just off. And I had that conversation with Elon. I said, would you buy liquid oxygen if we delivered? He goes, dude, of course, but it's just way too early. And he was right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Nicole, did you have a second part of that question?
I did, yeah, and which was great actually for the passion answer, because things will get tough. And what are the top things that you, as a founder, or you know, if you advise a founder, it's to keep the passion alive throughout the.
And so that's a great question, because there are also going to be times, Nicole, where you're tired of hitting your head against a stone wall and it's time to give up. Right. So and listen, there's no hard and fast rule here. When I think about this, I think about having a massive transformative purpose. And as JP can talk to you about, there's a process we go through at A360, which he's sharing with you, hopefully, on creating an MTP. And I think of the MTP as a canvas upon which you're going to take moonshots. So for me, my MTP was making humanity a multiplanetary species, opening up the space frontier, big, emotional, awe-inspired goal. My moonshots were like starting a weightless zero-G company, a suborbital flight through the XPRIZE, International Space University. All of these were difficult 10x moonshots on that canvas. Some succeed, some failed, but that emotional canvas was still valid all throughout. And I'll come back to asteroid mining, but with $200 million of disposable capital to do it next time. So it really comes back to challenging yourself. Is this massive transformative purpose really fundamental and core to me? And if it is, then you'll take, you know, and you can have an MTP. So I'm probably on my third MTP, like going from space to exponential tech and grand challenges to longevity. And you can change your MTP, you know, try it on, change it, but it has to feel right. It has to connect. You know, what you want to be as a kid before your parents told you couldn't be. You know, I mean, these are fundamental questions to ask.
I saw a video of you the other day, Peter, that I think was like, I still feel like a kid and I'm 25 and just going at it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. All right. Thank you, Nicole. Emily, let's get another question up.
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of great questions. So hopefully we can get to a few more. This question is from Mateo. Mateo, you can, floor is yours.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Jane and Emily. Thank you for having me. Peter, I read How to Make a Spaceship, and I was fascinated by your story there. And I have two questions. The first pertains to that. You know, you in that book, they discuss how you went through medical school and some of the reasons. What do you wish you did instead of going to medical school?
Wow, great question, Mateo. So backstory, my parents, both immigrants from Greece. I grew up in a medical family. My dad's an OB-GYN. My mom runs the office, should have been a doctor. It's from birth, I'm expected to become a doctor, right? My 4th birthday, I'm given this doctor's outfit. I'm following my dad around. You're gonna be a doctor, Apollo and Star Trek come along, and I tell my mom, I'm going to be an astronaut. She goes, that's nice, son. You're going to become a doctor, right? So that's what's going on in the background mode. And I ended up going to MIT as an undergrad, and then doing space stuff at nights and weekends, and then went to Harvard for medical school. Luckily, because it's really hard to get into, but it's harder to fail out of. And believe me, I came really close to failing out. I mean, like minimum credits ever issued. You know the story, Matteo. I made a deal with my dean that he would let me graduate if I promised never to practice medicine. And then I went and did my space stuff, sent a diploma to my parents and said, here it is. I'm going to go and do what I want to do. The reality is, it's come back to serve me so well in my third, incarnation of my MTP and longevity. So, I mean, I could say, I wish I had followed Jeff Bezos into Amazon, or, Elon into PayPal and made a few $1 billion that would fund all of the XPRIZes I'd ever want. Sometimes I think about if I weren't doing some of those other things, if I had been in the tech world earning money, but I'm not going to complain. I've followed my dreams, and I think I learned how to learn mostly in school. I didn't learn anything I use right now. I would say, Matteo, most of the stuff that I learned that I use today was learned outside of the classroom. Right? What's your second question?
Yeah, so I'm in my early 20s, and me and my brother run a modular construction company. We do prefabrication for construction. But the question is more general than this, which is, what advice do you have for people our age who are really trying to make huge impact, like, to the scale that you've always tried to?
Great question, and I totally respect it. Scale is a function of the velocity of what you're doing. What do I mean by that? You can either create scale by the power of your ideas, written word, output of video, ideas that are moving through the ecosystem at the speed of virality, or by virtue of using technology to create functional impact at speed, right? So there's a podcast I did on my moonshots and mindsets with Imad Mustak, the CEO of Stability AI. I suggest you listen to that. He's one of the current sort of heroes of the generative AI world. And I asked him that exact question, and he said, I would stop whatever you're doing, and I would learn about everything going on in generative AI, and I would jump in both feet there. So that's extreme. But if you're talking about tools and technologies that will allow you to scale and make global impact, those are the tools, right? Hardware is hard. Software can be hard too, but software scales orders of magnitude faster than hardware. And software is probably 1/10 the cost of iterative. So the question is, you become an expert in your modular construction area. Is there a software interface layer that you can take what you've already learned and play at that interface if you want to keep your relationships and expertise there? Anyway, it's just amazing out there right now. I hope that helps a little bit.
And we'll dig in more on all the things that we even shared about this morning in another session. We're going to do a whole AI group for this community as well, pulling from a lot of that information. So, Emily, let's get another question.
Sure. I still have a few more in the queue, so hopefully we can get to them. The next question is from Cody. Cody, if you're ready, go ahead.
How's it going? My name's Cody. I run a lab here at NASA doing human performance. And just as a general thing.
At which center?
Johnson Space Center.
Great. I spent a summer down there in human performance doing a whole slew of things. Anyway, cool.
The question I have is, from a standpoint of our interns, we always try to focus them on problems, right? Since from a school standpoint, they've learned that there's solutions at the back of the book. We try to tell them, instead of making solutions, you're making tools, and it generates new problems every time we create a tool to kind of interface with the challenge that we've looked at. And so that being considered, you've obviously seen a lot of problems in your life and on a daily basis. So what are those top, 1 to 3 problems right now that are really on your mind?
That are on my mind? It depends at what scale, right? So at the meta scale, asteroid impact, I am worried that we'll get blindsided by an asteroid coming from the direction of the sun. We can see them if they're coming from the outer planets, but if they're coming from the sun, we catch them days before they are in proximity to the Earth. That would make for a bad day. I am concerned about next generation pandemics, for sure. I'm worried about, I guess, some elements of dystopian society and news media being manipulative in that regard. So that concerns me. I'm less concerned about AI than other folks are. I need some more direction from you to hone my answer here, though, Cody.
Yeah, no, those are actually perfect. I mean, honestly, it's just what kind of problems really kind of rise to the surface when you kind of think about the context of problems, and that's absolutely what came to the surface. So I truly appreciate it.
I mean, a lot of what I do is, my MTP, my massive transformative purpose, is to inspire and guide entrepreneurs to create a hopeful, compelling, and abundant future for humanity. So my realization, just like JP and many of you, is my ability to impact the world is through entrepreneurs. How do I help them use their talents to make a bigger dent in the universe? Hope no one's in the photo sharing business here. I jokingly say we don't need another photo sharing app. I want entrepreneurs to really focus on the world's biggest problems. If you're going to, I like to say the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. You want to become a billionaire, help a billion people. And this is what you can do. Individuals can make a difference in the world. And so I'm on a drive to help people lift their objectives and their goals and go bigger.
Love it. Totally aligned. Emily, let's get another question.
Yeah, our next question is from Greg. Greg, go ahead. Oh, Greg, I'm sorry, Greg Cummins. We have a couple Gregs.
Thanks, Emily. Hey, Peter.
Hi, Greg.
Just a quick question. I'm in a sort of, wouldn't say it's in a startup which does focus on restorative wellness and mental health and mental wellness. I've also got a 9-year-old son who is an avid gamer, and trying to pry him away from his technology is quite a challenge. But it's more just, what do you see as the biggest challenges of an overconnected world right now, right? And and ways we could potentially use technology to, disconnect or really connect people with the, without being sort of, that overconnected process. So, we're using VR and, sort of vibroacoustic therapy and all these good things, to help like drop people into meditative states. But when is it too much, right? And
Greg, listen, I respect the question, and I think about it a lot. It's like your 9-year-old son, my 11-year-olds, they live and breathe in their video world. They're experts at it. Part of what I think about is this is the world that is going to dominate their lives, right? They will be, they're in Roblox, they're in a metaverse, they're fluent in that, and they blow me away with what they're able to do and their commands of knowledge. And that will translate 5, 20 years from now to their work and what they do and how they do it. So that's good, but I'm also someone who loves Eckhart Tolle's work on the power of now and New Earth, and I try and get in my meditation and be present as much as I can. So, and I'm in my mind too much, so I'm trying to be present. I have a watch that I wear on weekends and on vacation, and it's not digital. It has no moving parts. It has a face that says now on it. So when I go to look at my watch, see what time it is, it says now. And I say, okay, yes, be present now. It's a little reminder. And so it's a balancing act. I don't have any knowledge that isn't obvious for you. for me, it's how do I do what's on my calendar. So I do my best to create a rhythm to life, which includes meditation. You know, I went an hour before now, I went and did Pilates for an hour. You know, I've got a workout tomorrow morning and the stretch lab in the afternoon. And, you know, it's like I try and calendar the things that will help give me some balance. And then, you know, my 11-year-olds are a hell of a lot of balancing for me. And I think probably for you as well, when I'm with them or taking them to school or spending time, I just try and always remember to focus on them and not my damn phone when I'm with them.
Perfect.
Peter, we got a quick question here. Maybe can you outline your meditation just briefly? Give us some direction on where you're at.
Yeah, sure. So I have different music songs that I use just to calm myself down and put 10 minutes of meditation on the books in the morning. One of the things that I have different, one is a loving kindness meditation. You can Google that, and there's some great ones on YouTube. But when I wake up in the morning, I'll try and do 3 things every morning. I will, first thing, try and just meditate, and it's breathing, some music, and just let my mind relax into the day. There are lots of different approaches, but at a minimum, I want to do that. The second thing I'll want to do is if I'm doing a weight workout, that's great. If I'm not, it'll be some stretching and some exercise every day. First thing, it doesn't have to be long, just 10 minutes, get my heart rate and get some muscular stuff going. And then what I'll do is I've got a Word document that I've had for a decade, which is I will take 10 minutes and I will prioritize my day. In a world in which we have an abundance of opportunities and information and people and demands, you will drown. And so my goal is, okay, if I do these 3 things today was a success, right? So can I prioritize the stuff I'm going to do that, if I do more than that, fantastic. But if I just do that, today's a win, right? Because otherwise, if you don't do that, you're always, as Dan Sullivan, who's my coach from Strategic Coach, talks about, is you're in the gap, right? If you compare yourself against everything you could possibly do, you're in the gap. You're always going to feel lacking. But if you compare yourself compared to concrete where you've come from, like if I do these 3 things, I'm a success today. So that helps provide some prioritization, right? All of us, 8 billion humans, have one thing in common, just one thing. 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 365 days in a year is how you use your time that differentiates people to a large degree. So how are you going to use the day that is unveiling before you? So that kind of mind structure helps me.
That's great. And I think we're just at about time.
We can squeeze in one more. Let's do it.
Okay, great. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Emily.
Okay, awesome. I've got Dom ready with another question for you. Go ahead,
Hey,
Dom.
Dom.
Yeah. Hi, Peter. Amazing afternoon or evening. As
It's
you know, my
late for
MVP, yeah, it's like AI workshop was really blown my mind. And you know,
Awesome.
my MVP is to empower entrepreneurs to reach their full potential.
Yes,
So we want to unleash greatness. This is why I'm here.
I love
And
that.
uplift humanity together. And I have set the moonshot that I want to make 1 million entrepreneurs last longer until we reach the point of singularity. And to get there, I'm asking myself, how do we have to train AI on the best of humanity? And if I look around in the internet, unfortunately, it seems that like the worst oftentimes outweighs the best. So what are your takes on how shall we train those models?
So that's a fascinating idea, Dom, and thank you. I've really enjoyed having you in the Abundance membership. Thank you for all that you do. You know, the challenge is that our brains pay attention to dystopian information more than good news, right? You guys know all this. We pay 10 times more attention to negative news. As a result of that, the news media's business model is to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers, so they deliver negative news all the time. In small group settings of 100,000 years ago, a lot of the gossip and a lot of the negative stuff would capture our attention of who was sleeping with who. I mean, all of those things. So our brains are just wired in that fashion. And so that rises to the top, right? You hear about all of this, I don't have to call it other than crap. So the question becomes, Dom, if you're going to train up AI models, I do think that there can be a mechanism for filtering examples. I do think that humans can identify not sensationalism, but in different categories of who is doing the best work, who is supporting, who is great examples, who from, and there are multiple different versions of morals and ethics depending on where you were born and so forth. But is there a way of identifying a filtration mechanism that not 100% of the population, but the majority of the population views as non-political and mindsets that we want our children to emulate? Ultimately, I think we want our children and leaders to emulate these positive mindsets. By the way, creating that data set is valuable in itself, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
listen,
you.
Peter, what we're going to do before you jump off is we're going to about to do a networking, a breakout, which all about. So do you have a recommended prompt for everyone to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I would like people to discuss, do you know your massive transformative purpose? If you know your MTP, what is that emotionally drives you? That is the most important thing that you'll do in your life, or at least you're willing to dedicate a decade to. Share it. If you don't know it, what might it be? Right? What could it be? And then discuss it. And then the other individuals in the group help that individual shape it a little bit. Ask them questions. When I was at Singularity University running the program my first year, here we had 80 students from around the world, from MIT and Harvard and Supiro and Tokyo University, the best graduate students. And I expected all of them would have been super clear about their passion and purpose in life. And I asked a question, I said, expecting a different answer. I said, how many of you here are super clear about your purpose in life? You know what you're going to do and the impact you want to make. Please raise your hand. And it was like 35-40% of them raised their hands. And I was shocked because here they had succeeded so much in life, but without that clarity. And I was like, I stopped everything I was expecting to say. And we got into that. And I said, okay, you're here in the Singularity Graduate Studies program for the next 10 weeks. Forget about what you came in with, your objective. You have one purpose. Over the next 10 weeks, your mission is to find your purpose. What wakes you up in the morning, lights you up, keeps you going till 3 a.m. When you're knocked down, picks you up off the floor again and keeps you going. So if you've got your purpose, share it with pride, recruit others who have similar purposes to work together. If you don't, begin that exploration now.
That sounds perfect. Peter, thank you very much for joining us today.
Buddy.
I really appreciate you, your mentorship, all the content, the programming. I'm so excited for the summit this year. So thank you.
Great, and excited to share with your team as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody. See you guys again soon, I'm sure.
Thank
So
you.
networking is a
Yeah,
super important
maybe
part of what we want to do here. So don't jump off yet. We're going to spend just another 15 minutes or so. Emily's going to put you into a breakout room with 2 other people. So there'll be 3 of you per room. Can we do that, Emily? Or is it already set up at 4? You'll reset it. And what you do is, the whole point is to meet some other folks in the community. This is one of the most powerful pieces of this. I love Peter's prompt. if you have a purpose and an MTP, massively transformative purpose, what is it? If you don't, what could it be? What's got you really fired up, or what you got you really upset about the current state? Everyone's going to have how many minutes? 3 minutes. Everyone has 3 minutes to share. Somebody, whoever's birthday is next, should be the moderator for the rooms. So jump in there and moderate. Make sure everyone has 3 minutes to get to share. And we'll see you back here in about, I guess that makes it 12 or minutes or so, 9 minutes. So before we head out and let you all go back to your day, I'd love to, you can just raise your hand or we'll get you off mute, but love to hear something that's come up for you that was a surprise or that you learned, you're excited about. Yeah, Jen, please.
I was super stoked to meet your wife. She was awesome.
Awesome.
And it turns out we have a shared passion for the health space. So I'm looking forward to talking more about that with her in the future.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Someone else. Come on, someone's got to close us up here. One volunteer.
JP, Daryl Shook, thanks for doing this exciting, very interesting topic. Obviously blew me away. ChatGPT's been on the edges of my awareness, but now I'm really excited about it. So thanks for that, and I really appreciate the event. Keep it up.
Yeah, good to see you, Daryl. Yeah, and this is what's beautiful about this. It's so fun to have people come back in and see people again, and also just kind of rekindle kind of the imagination of what's possible. So we're going to wrap it up there. This is also just a reminder, if you're not part of our community on a more active basis, dig in. If you want to learn more about Abundance 360, we did do a partnership with Peter and the team there. So all the content that we're getting from Abundance is going to be shared to our community. And if you want to be part of our business mastermind, you'll have kind of access even further. If you're interested in any of those conversations, any of those opportunities, just give myself or Emily an email or a call. Love to talk to you about it. But honestly, I'm just grateful for our relationship, our friendship, and really look forward to staying in touch throughout the year. We will see you next time. Hopefully, we're having an AI talk. Dom and Aaron Schramm. I don't know if Aaron's still on, but they're going to co-pilot a big deep dive on AI, probably March 2nd. That's kind of a temporary date. So keep an eye out for that invite, and we'll go from there. So again, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks, JP and team. See you.
Thanks, Greg. We'll see you next time.
I'm sitting here by myself. I thought I hung up. JP,
Yeah, no, we're all
how's it
done.
going? Happy Newish year.
Take care. Yeah, thank you. Good to see you. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.